Mr. Miller.
Minister, thanks again for being here. It's always great to have Minister at the committee. I want to talk about the new powers that were granted under C-51 to CSIS, and basically it gave them the new powers to disrupt potential threats, and there's different things, whether it's telephone calls, travel plans, etc. But before the changes in C-51, CSIS could only inform police agencies of potential threats and could not act on them alone. But through the last election, Mr. Minister, your party basically came out and said they were going to make major changes to it. Now, the director of CSIS appeared before a Senate committee on March earlier this year, and he indicated that the agency had used their new powers close to 24 times since C-51 came into source, and of course 6 more months have passed since then. And he also indicated that it is likely they'd use these powers again in the future. Now, also during an interview following being at the Senate committee, Director CSIS stated that the national security review that the government is currently engaged in, that a decision would likely be made that could affect the power and others. So, seeing, Mr. Minister, that Corporal Cirillo, if the powers that be would have had the proper things at the time, probably would still be alive. And we were all here 2 years ago when that happened, and I'm sure you were as well. And also, the would-be terrorist driver, his last name I believe in Strathroy a few months ago, probably wouldn't have been caught without these new changes. So my question is, do you intend to change them? And if so, how do you see these powers changing, as clearly they've been effective in disrupting potential threats thus far?
Well, Mr. Miller, thank you for your greeting. On the threat reduction activities, that is one area where we want to listen very carefully to Canadians' views, because views are mixed on that power. If you remember, the original creation of CSIS flowed out of a decision by a previous government to remove intelligence functions to a significant extent from the RCMP and hand them over to an independent agency that would specialize in intelligence, while the RCMP would deal with policing issues. And there was a policy decision at that time to separate the two functions. Now, many years later, the legislation was changed that tends to in some ways merge them back together again. And I think we need to think carefully about that.
But do you intend to change them, Mr. Minister?
The commitment that we made in the platform was to ensure compliance with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Of course.
That was the commitment that was made. And there was language in C-51 that tended to contradict that. So that is the issue that needs to be addressed. Compliance with the Charter.
Okay, I'm running out of time. You really haven't said, are you going to change them or not? And how would that look at if you do? And, I mean, that's the answer to one is very quick, yes or no. And the other one, if it's yes, then how? And
well, so the point, Mr. Miller, why would you have a consultation if you've already determined the answer to the question? As I said at the beginning of my answer, we want to hear Canadians on this subject. The bottom line for us is compliance with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Okay, did you consult then prior to making that announcement during the election? I think that we know...
what announcement?
We know that, well,
we announced compliance with the Charter. That's what we announced.
Yeah, well, it goes beyond that, I think. Now,
well, that may be your platform. It's not mine.
No, well, it was your party said it.
No, we didn't.
So,
read
anyway,
the platform, page 55. I'm happy to send you a copy.
Yeah, I'm going to move on here. We all know, and in fact you even said that organizations that have used the new powers, Citizenship and Immigration Canada, the CBSA, CSIS, and a fourth unnamed agency have used these. So it's obvious, Mr. Minister, that the changes have been used, and I'm sure they wouldn't be used unless they were a valuable tool.
Well, you've segued from one power to another. You've segued from threat reduction activities, which was the subject of your first question, to information sharing, which is the subject of your second question. And the two are quite different subjects.
Okay, that's fine, but I wasn't getting much of a response to the other, so I moved on. So on that, are you going to change the information sharing process? Because obviously these organizations are saying that they're using it, and it seems to be working.
In respect of that new piece of legislation, which was introduced as a part of C51, what we've indicated just in my remarks today is that the Privacy Commissioner has indicated, in his view, that there are some defects in the process, including whether or not privacy impact statements have been properly prepared and so forth. And what I've undertaken today, further to my conversation with the Privacy Commissioner a few days ago, is that I will be in touch with every minister in the Cabinet to make sure that they have the systems in place that will properly respect and protect privacy.
How much time? Okay. On this, just to carry this out, a number of people, or I'll even go back to my own personal. I'm a private person. I want my rights protected. I want all Canadians' rights. But we live in a different world today, Mr. Minister, than we did even 10 years ago. And what I mean by that is the threats that are out there. Mr. Spangman talked about domestic terrorism. There's no doubt it's more prominent today than ever. So, it comes back to the thing. Well, I like my privacy, and I think most Canadians do. At the end of the day, I find it a small sacrifice that if our agencies that protect us all have tools to actually do the job, and also, if I have done nothing wrong, I have nothing to worry about. And, and I've had that said to me. I'm sure you've had some of your constituents tell you that. And how do you respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. On continue avec M.